Alright guys, this is Chad at Lethal Air. I'm going to show you how to install a heavier spring or replace a stock spring in your Airforce Texan. Alright, first off, you want to loosen up your safety screws and your trigger screw, which I've already done. As you can see, I've taken the two screws out. They're over here, right there. Alright, so after that, we're just basically taking apart the cover that holds this spring in. Dang, that screw was in there. You're taking apart the cover that holds all your trigger assembly stuff in. So let's move a couple of things out of the way here. All right, sorry about that. Okay. So trigger guard, front hand grip, and let's go ahead and get the cocking handle unhooked here. So, and it's very important that you get these two screws in nice and flat and straight once you get this removed and reinstalled. I like to leave the cocking handle open because then I can use it as a little brace to keep the gun up on top of its head. Alright, so back to what we were doing. I've already loosened that up like I said, so get that out of the way. And the safety. Somebody must have glued that thing on there. Anyhow, alright. Now once you get this cover off, you're going to see a couple of springs. Alright. Let's get something small to try it out with. Screwdriver. Alright, so one goes here, and that's a longer one. Your short one goes in the middle, and your other one is the same length as the first one we took out, goes in the rear. Alright, now to get everything to come undone on the gun so that it can slide out, the easiest way I've found to do it is to use two hands and do it like so. So first thing you want to do is pull this flapper up, and you want to hold it with your pinky finger, and then right here with a sideways spring and this piece of metal here, you want to pull it back. You want to pull it back and make sure you push your tube, your breech tube, all the way forward. If you won't get no tension, if you can't pull this out from underneath it easily, just push your tube, like when you cock it open, push it forward just a little bit and it'll release that so you can get this free. So what you want to do here is you want to hold this back, spring in the metal piece, and you want to push this down and so that it stops right there. And now that's sticking up in the air. You just let that one fall forward, and all this is important when we put it back together to reset your trigger. And now your tube should just slide on out, like so. Alright, this is your breech tube. This one particularly has a lot of grease on it. I'm guessing it's silicone grease from the way it feels and the way it looks. Yeah, it's silicone grease, I can smell it. Alright, so to put in the new spring, and this customer had a TX2 valve Texan aluminum bottle gun. So what we did is upgrade him to a carbon fiber bottle, and they used different springs depending on how old your Texan is. When the TX2 valve came out, they used a different spring if it was the aluminum bottle gun than they did in the carbon fiber TX2 valve gun. So here's our upgraded spring, and this will actually a little bit stronger than the factory spring. You'll gain another 40 or 50 feet per second over top the factory one. It's a direct replacement. Put your power wheel back in, and it's simple as that. The complicated part will be when we reset the trigger, and that's when you want to pay the most attention of this whole installation. is the most important part, because you'll have to constantly take the gun back apart until you get the trigger set correctly. All right, that's good enough. So make sure this is facing up. Slide it back into place. Bring it all the way forward. I go ahead and mount these screws back in to make sure they're lined up before I start doing anything else, because if these don't line up, obviously you're not going to be able to cock it, and then you're going to have to undo everything you just did to correct it and get it in the right position. So let's go. And like I said, this one also is very important that you get these screws in nice and straight, because you can easily cross thread this tube, and then you'll strip the screws out, and then you'll be calling Airforce for a replacement breech tube. So this other one goes in just a little crooked because of the cocking arm. I had a bent Allen key that had a little bend to it that I could snake it around that little bend, and I seem to have misplaced it. So what I like to do otherwise is I like to set this screw with my fingers first, as far as I can get it to go down, to make sure it's not cross-threaded, because when you use your Allen key that is straight, you're not going to get exactly straight. As you can see, that's a little crooked. So you just want to put a little pressure and make sure you don't strip that screw out. You can also bring this forward, and that'll make it a little more straighter. And like I said, you just don't want to strip those. You don't want to cross-thread them, but you want to make sure they're nice and snug. All right, and since there was no trigger set yet, the spring wasn't being depressed, and this would move freely. So actually you could bring it all the way down and tighten that screw down. It's much easier. I've just done it so much that I'm kind of quick at what I do and kind of fly through this. So hopefully I'm not moving too fast for you guys. Here's going to be the most important part of the reinstallation. All right, so what you want to do is get this cocked all the way open. You drop this down first, and there's a little, can't really see right here, that is your safety shear. So if that is not in there flush, this one is, because I didn't really tip this gun over, but if you move this gun around with that little flapper up, this will come out from its little pocket, and then you'll have problems. This won't lay down flat, and you got to wedge it back in. As you can see, this one's in, didn't move on me, so we're good to go. So if that happens, just make sure that's back in its proper place. Then this will lay down all the way flat. And now you want to push this down and hear a click, and you'll see this pop up just a hair. There you go. Now your trigger should be set correctly. Then you go back, your long screw goes here, your short screw goes right there, and then your other long one, which the two long ones are exactly the same size, so it doesn't matter which one. That should be your trigger grouping. Lay your plate down flat. Now this is where I check and make sure my trigger's set before I move any further. I get the plate on, and on the side, you want to cock the gun. You want to make sure the safety moves freely. And if that does, you're good to go. A lot of times, I put it back, you can put it on fire. You fired the gun. Make sure the safety re-engages, goes back. Close it. Make sure you don't hit the trigger though. Be very careful, because you can damage your I forget what the name of this part is now, but it's like a breech slide. Yeah, breech slide. That hammer will slam this, and it'll mess up those little screws on the sides here that holds this piece onto the breech tube. So you want to be careful you don't hit the trigger while you're off safety, and dry fire the spring. All right, so we're good to go. One more time, just to show you. Actually, let's put it back on fire. You fired the gun. It's on fire. You cock it back. You can see the safety has moved back. Now it won't move forward when you got the gun cocked open. You got to cock it again, and you see it moves freely. So our safety is engaged and our trigger is engaged the way it needs to be. So we're gonna open it back up, and it's just reassemble. So trigger shoe on, safety plate, and make sure you use the right size for these little tiny screws, because they get glued in and you can easily strip these out very, very easily. I forget what size Allen screw this is. I can probably tell you on the back of this multi-tool. I believe there's the sizes. It would be the second one from the smallest. So 1/16. Yep, 1/16. All right, let's put the second one back in. And it's an Allen screw. And then you can adjust and leave that a little loose, and you can kind of do some fine adjusting once you get everything back on. Now, put your plate back on, your trigger guard, and install your grip, and you're ready to go. All right, guys, thanks for watching.